All right, welcome everybody. This is a kind of new thing that I'm trying to do here to bring faster clarity. I mean, the goal when you're sick, there's nothing more important than getting well quickly. And just pulling something up here that I want to read to you and maybe share some light. I think this particular way of teaching, I'm not exactly resistant to it, but I've realized in my daily email and in trying to also just do very quick responses to people's questions and emails. This is probably the single best thing I can do to help you get clear on the pivot protocol quickly. So if you don't have the material, if you haven't actually gone ahead and decided to dive into the phase one and get the masterclass material, well, that's your choice, and don't worry about it for now. It's actually not. It's not a. You don't need that. That partly why I'm doing this video kind of lessons here that are totally free. If you're watching this, obviously you don't have to purchase anything to get this. But what I want you to understand is this thing is so different. The approach that I stumbled across and that I've discovered is so different that you really owe it to yourself to spend a little time with it and try to get into it. I know everybody in our modern era, it's just automatic that everybody's going to want some kind of quick fix and just tell me the good stuff. Just tell me one thing I can do to fix it and make it all go away and, kiss it and make it better kind of thing. And when you have a digestive issue that's causing something like acid reflux, it's just not that simple. Partly too, the concepts in the pivot protocol and what I discovered along my own healing journey, but also as a clinical practitioner for a number of years, and seeing a lot of patients and as a professor of medicine and a guy who's written several books and lectured and taught doctors and traveled and worked in hospitals and done all the things that I did from about 2000 to about 2017 is the concepts of healing and even how the illness comes about and what's actually going on to give you acid reflux. They are not from our culture. They are not something that you came across or that you've read before, or that's on Facebook, or that's in some health natural healing blog or anything else. You got to go deep. You got to go very, very deep into very ancient holism. Partly that's Asian medicine, but here's the thing that confuses everybody about this. And I mean, even people who think that they're expert at it really end up in a dead end for this reason. Medical concepts and the solutions that I'm proposing to you, and even the understanding of your organs, how they go out of balance, what happens to create this disharmony in your digestive system. These things are contained in the language. So I don't speak Chinese, but I had to learn to read Chinese in order to understand this. Okay? I mean, that's the level that I had to go to. I doubt very much that anybody watching this is going to go learn to read Chinese in order to understand what I'm talking about. It's just way too much work for you to do. Now, I haven't even talked about this in other portions, like the free quiz that I do to help you figure out which type of acid reflux you have. I haven't even talked about this because I didn't want to bog down in, here's what I really discovered and here's what I had to do and do you know Chinese and all the rest. Because number one, it sounds pretentious and in some ways it's not germane. It's like, I know if you're hurting, you want to know what I learned, you want to hear a quick version of it, so that you can get on with deciding whether or not, I'm worth your time and effort. But understand this, the concepts themselves, like one of the things we talk about, it's in the quiz. If you've taken the quiz, you already know this. And some of you have this type. If you have dampness, you got to stop, back up and ask yourself, what is dampness? What does that even mean? What is this guy talking about? Is that even a real thing? Okay. So what I'm trying to teach you in here is not something you've come across, and also the Asian system of medicine for dealing with chronic illness is so far ahead of anything we have in the West. It just is. That's not coming from a guy who's against doctors and hates modern medicine. Our modern medical system is in many ways a disaster of administration, but it's great at what it's designed to do. And what it's designed to do is treat really, really, really dangerous kind of acute injuries and illness. If your heart stops, they can restart it. They can do all kinds of things surgically. If you're banged up in an accident, they can keep you alive. It's just an amazing system. It never existed before, even 50 to 100 years ago. All those advances are going to keep getting better and better because of high tech. But by the way, that doesn't really help you with something like chronic digestive imbalance resulting in acid reflux, IBS, autoimmune disease, etc. So that's the main message that I got to keep telling you over and over again. Like, this is not anything that you've discovered before. And also you have to put in a little bit of work. I mean, 5 to 10 minutes to just listen, to understand what I'm talking about with these different ideas that come outside of our culture could make all the difference in your healing. It could actually turn your life around. Okay. You didn't have to study for 10 years like I did to really figure all this out. I'm bringing this to you because it is that valuable. And it actually took a lot for me to decide to do this. So I hope you will. If you don't have the phase 1 in the master class, you really have nothing to risk. You really have nothing to lose. You could get your life back and you could turn your health around. But let me just dive in today. I talked to a young woman today, and you know, she said a phrase that I've heard many times in my clinical practice and a lot of the things that I've done over the years. And you hear this phrase, if you do the kind of medicine that I do, and you've seen enough patients, and that's why I titled this video, you know, is your body failing you? It's a very serious autoimmune kind of situation she was describing to me. Very serious level of symptomology. You know, she's a mother of 3, I believe she said. They recently had to move. She's trying to hold down a job. I mean, it's just a tremendous, tremendous situation of, it's like, what do you do when things get this bad? You know, what do you actually do when you feel that your body is actually on the verge of failure, or that your body is failing you, that no matter what you do, you just can't get well again? Okay. Here's where the Pivot Protocol helps you. And this is a little bit now repeating, without sharing too many details, but repeating what I said to this young woman, which is, understand the difference between the Pivot Protocol and everything else is, as I said, these concepts: dampness, how the organs do or don't harmonize. When you have a serious illness that's gone on for a long time, or that's developed over a long time, even if your symptoms just appeared, your organs are working against each other. So it's not enough to just do a simple fix and take one pill that blocks your stomach acid and everything's going to be better. If you're watching this, you already know that. You've already figured that part out, is my guess. Because what's really going on is there's a multiplicity. There's multiple things happening that are disrupting the function of your organs. This organ is, if you will, attacking the other organ. That's partly what autoimmune disease is. Your body's attacking itself. So, for example, one of the basic imbalance that happens in people with acid reflux, and this is almost universal, although it will differ in different organs for different people. The liver tends to overheat. And when your liver overheats, you tend to have certain things happen to your stomach. Now, I explain this in the Pivot Protocol, but let's take a typical situation of autoimmune disease, okay, resulting in, I mean, it's like if you have acid reflux and you have an autoimmune condition, your acid reflux is kind of the least of your worries. I mean, you can think of it this way, but it's still very unpleasant. And it's all one thing. You have acid reflux, but the deeper thing that's going on is your organs are attacking each other, and that there's no possibility of getting rid of acid reflux until we deal with the bigger problem of your autoimmune situation. So your liver gets hot, and then you tend to overeat. As you overeat, food continues to build up. Blockages of food and waste are building up in your intestines. Your immune system is running hard because your intestines are full of crap, right? They're full of waste. You're full of stuff that you can't get out of your body. Now you go, wait a second, I go to the toilet every day and I move my bowels. Some people do, some people don't. If you're dry and constipated, that's a big problem for your nervous system. If you're damp and full of mucus and fluids, and you're bloating and you feel pressure and you can't take a deep breath and you have all of these things going on, and also you're fatigued because your body's running itself ragged trying to fight off this terrible inflammatory buildup of bacteria that's leaking into your through your intestines into your bloodstream. All of that is bound to give you multiple symptoms. So that's why I say your acid reflux is, in many ways, it's the caboose on the train. But if you're finding, my friend told me not to use that metaphor. In many ways, it's the least of your worries, let's say, because to fix the deeper problem, which is what the Pivot Protocol is teaching you, if you can fix the deeper problem, your acid reflux goes away on its own. It's gone. It's already gone because we fixed the thing that's causing the acid reflux and all your other digestive symptoms. So stress will overheat your liver. Aging will overheat your liver. Too much coffee will overheat your liver. Drinking too much booze will overheat your liver. A lot of things overheat the liver. Life will overheat your liver. Life is a stressful, tense situation. While you're alive, you tend to be, right? There's a struggle involved in the entire process. And that's a burden on your organs. It's a burden on your digestion. So what do you do about it? Well, there's ways to balance out that extra heat and that imbalance in the liver so that you do not, so that your stomach doesn't get overheated, so that your digestive fire isn't overwhelmed, so that you don't develop dampness and food stagnation deep inside your belly, causing this kind of deep underlying mechanism that gives rise to everything from autoimmune disease, as was the case with my friend today, and all the way to, again, acid reflux, right? Inflammatory bowel, food sensitivities, all of those things are one fabric. Okay. So look, if you're coming to the Pivot Protocol for the first time, just understand there's no such thing as a patient with one symptom. Once you've developed a chronic imbalance, a chronic condition, especially in your digestion, once you've developed that, you're going to have multiple things going on. And also, you cannot treat it simply by just taking a pill to help your joint pain or an anti-inflammatory for your inflammatory bowel condition. Once you develop one thing, you're going to have multiple kinds of symptoms, multiple imbalances, because one is giving rise to the next, is giving rise to the next, is giving rise to the next. Okay, there's a momentum to your illness. That's what we have to break. And you break it, right? You break it, or you repair your system. You break the cycle, the negative cycle of illness, by repairing the whole system at the same time. That's what the Pivot Protocol is really great at teaching you. Now, again, I didn't make this up out of nowhere, but I had to go very deep to dig out all the wisdom from especially Asia, but also indigenous culture in Central America, where I lived for a number of years, where I still go and visit from time to time. And once you get the concepts yourself, you can make sense of what to do on your own. My goal for you is not that you have to ask me or that I need to consult with you over a long period of time or anything else, because that costs a lot of money eventually. But that you can figure out how to be an expert on your own health by reading and interpreting your symptoms to develop your own plan for how you're going to counteract each symptom as it appears. That's what the Pivot Protocol is all about. If you're in phase one, as my friend on the call today is starting phase one, it makes sense to learn first, and this is why I teach the material in this order, but just so you understand how the program works, it makes sense to teach first what you do or what you should not do to cause your own illness. In other words, a lot of people are doing things to cause their own illness, eating these foods, eating this way, eating foods in this order, right? Putting food in the wrong order also causes reflux. If you eat in a certain order, you have much less chance for reflux. If you're doing things in between meals, here's what you shouldn't be doing, right? If you listen to a lot of natural healing advice, you're going to get a lot of BS from people who have never practiced clinical medicine. In the best case, maybe they taught yoga or studied a book on, again, like Eastern healing practices and all the rest. To me, these people are very, very dangerous. And I'm not saying they're bad people and they're dangerous because they're malicious. They're just very ill-informed. Okay. To get good at what I did, I had to take what I learned, practice it in clinic, figure out what was correct and incorrect. And then I went even deeper. I went and worked with doctors for a number of years. I got hired in hospitals, 2 hospitals. I apprenticed myself to several different physicians. I ended up presenting at medical conferences because, and I'm not saying that because it's a huge feather in my cap, although in some ways it is. We had, really groundbreaking kind of stuff that we did in the hospital in Chicago, and I went and lectured at Cleveland Clinic and on the West Coast and on the East Coast and in New York and places in between to try to share with doctors, like, look, here's something your patients are really crying out for, and this is not something that people have come across. This is something that I had to go deep enough into to pull the wisdom out and then translate it, not just literally, but figuratively take the concepts that we don't even think about in Western medicine and then ask doctors, is this correct? Do we have something parallel? Does this make sense to you? And get their feedback to find out, which part of this would even line up with in a complementary way with the Western medical system. So, look, if you're coming to the Pivot Protocol for the first time, I just encourage you. There's no risk to you for trying this. If you won't do any work, I probably can't help you. But if you will do a little bit of work, you're going to find that the Pivot Protocol just has incredible, incredible advantages over going back to your doctor and getting another pill and worrying about, digestive motility and digestive taking all kinds of natural supplements, or going back and getting another pill for the next thing that your doctor is going to tell you about. You can solve this. Most people can solve this themselves. I'm here to coach you. I've put together a great coaching program in the form of the Pivot Protocol. It costs you less than like one trip to the doctor to get all of my best stuff over about 19 years of study and practice. So I hope you'll take that for how it's intended and really take the plunge, really go for it, because you could find out, just like I did, that this other way of understanding digestive disease and figuring out what to do about it is so far advanced beyond what we have in our modern medical system. And that's my hope and my wish for all of you. Okay. Good luck. Thanks. And do your best. Send me your questions. Okay. info@pivotprotocol.com. Thanks.